Hi, I'm Nicole, the host of Squiggly Motherhood, and welcome back to another episode. And this one is a solo episode, so no guests, just me. And I really want this to feel like you're listening to a friend talking on a voice note to you. So it'll be very minimal edits. And it'll just be me to you, talking to friends, talking to the Squiggly Motherhood community. So wherever you are, however you're listening to this, get comfortable as we're going to get in. We're going to have real, honest, deep conversation where I'm going to be vulnerable and just keep it 100% real with you, 100% honest. So let's dive straight into the episode. So this episode, we're talking all about the maternity penalty. We're talking about finances. We're talking about money. And we're talking about, I'm going to get quite personal here, about kind of the money choices that me and my husband have made. So I want to start from the beginning. When I decided that I wanted to have children, we were walking down the hill. We said, okay, I think we're going to do this. I think we're going to try for a baby. When we was walking down that hill, at no point was I really thinking, this is going to have a huge impact on my earnings, on my salary. I mean, yes, I knew that it was going to impact me, but I wasn't really aware of exactly how much it was going to impact me. It wasn't like I was able to go, if I have one baby, it will impact me by 50 grand. And if I have a second baby, it will impact me by blah, blah, blah. I knew I'd be impacted. I knew my career would stall. I knew I wouldn't be able to go for certain promotions. I knew all that, but there wasn't that number that was there to say, and this is the real time impact. Well, a piece of research was done by the ONS, Office of National Statistics, and it was released very recently, and we have that data. Now, I'm going to brace you. I'm going to read out a whole heap of numbers here, and I'm going to round up the numbers so it's just a nice, clean number to give you. But as I brace you for when I give you these numbers, they're a lot. They're high. And I think when I first looked at the numbers, I was like, well, goddamn, the impact is real. And the impact is high. So I was wondering, you want to sit down as I read you these numbers because they are astounding. They are a shocker. Okay. So I'm going to read them right now. So yeah, brace off information. I'm just going to read out some numbers. So bear with me as I'm reading out the numbers. I'm giving you that data. So mothers on average, with over the 5 years that the first child is born, lose, again, I'm rounding it slightly, £65,600. That's over the first 5 years when their first child is born. Now, if she goes on to have a second baby, she loses a further £26,300. If you decide that you want to have a third baby, you lose another £32,400. That's a whole heap of money. Now, if you decide, actually, for me, I am going to have 3 children, the total impact there is, and hold on, I'm going to do some real quick maths here, £124,000. Okay, I'm going to say it again. So you decide to have 3 babies. The impact on your earnings is £124,000. If I knew that right at the beginning stage, when we was kind of saying, yep, we're going to take the plunge, we're going to have the baby, I really wonder how much that would have impacted my decision. If we just think of that first number, we're having that first child over 5 years, that £65,600 is lost. Geez, that's a lot of money. And if I bring that back to me and my personal experience, I can kind of see it. I can kind of see it in so many different ways, in the sense of you come back to work and all your peers and people who are listening to me won't be able to see this, but I'm just going to show it using my hands and try to explain it in the best way I can to those who are listening. But your peers have gone up. So they've moved up the ladder. And as you've been off on maternity leave, however long that's been, you've remained stagnant. And then when you come back into the workplace, now this is something I wasn't expecting. It takes so long, or at least it has for me, to build back up my confidence, to feel like I'm on par with my colleagues. And I will never be on par because I took that time out. And then there's a confidence thing. Then there's the juggling. And then there's the constant illnesses. So when they're like, oh, you're able to perform at 100% your best. Well, hell no, I'm not. Because I've been up all night with a baby, or because there's constant bugs from school or nursery or wherever it is. There's constant germs and bugs. So it's so hard to perform at your absolute best. So that number for me feels very real, from my colleagues at the same level moving up, getting promotions, getting pay rises. And then when you come back, they're 5 steps ahead, and you're at point 0 and they're at point 5, and they're continuing to move forward as you are just trying to get up to 5, amongst coming back to work, being really ill, being really tired, not imposter syndrome being at all-time high, not feeling very confident, and just trying to find your way and juggle amongst it. It feels to me that having children or having a family, this is hilarious what I'm going to say, because we literally can't survive as a being, as a civilization, as a society, without more children being brought into the world, that the impact on the woman is so high. And yet, so we don't have the societal frameworks and structures to really support that, to really plug the gap into these ginormous numbers that we're seeing. And quite frankly, if you're not a woman or a man listening to this feeling angry that all this money is being lost, then you should feel angry that this maternity penalty is so high, and the impact that it has, not just on women, but on men as well. That's impacting the household, that's impacting everyone getting their coins and their money. It feels unfair. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. Now, I don't just want to talk about the maternity penalty in terms of finances. I also want to talk about in terms of kind of the emotional penalty as well. But I'm going to pause right there. I'm going to say something, right, for anyone listening to this being like, oh, we're always saying motherhood is hard and da-da-da. We need to acknowledge where we are and what the facts are and what's real and truth, to be able to get to a place of like, how can we make improvements? And I'm going to share with you what me and my husband do. And I hope that will give you a little bit of a start for 10, a little bit of inspiration. Also in my Substack that you can subscribe to, then all that information is in the show notes. But in my Substack, I have weekly newsletters where I share with all my Squiggly Motherhood community tips and tricks and some advice as to kind of how we're managing our finances. How we're managing, creating kind of values within the home, all of that stuff, but it's written down that you're able to access. So you can look at that in my Substack. But at the end of this episode, I am going to share with you what me and my husband do with our finances. And I'm going to be really honest, really real, like really vulnerable, and just share those with you. And also share what we do in terms of like the emotional maternity penalty as well. And again, be really real, be really honest, share what has and hasn't worked. But as I go into talking about this right here, I was always somebody who, like, very organized. At school, I was organized. I had a plan. I kind of had an idea of how I wanted my life to turn out, and some of that has and hasn't happened because, as you know, life does not work that way. And I remember reading that book. Oh my gosh, what was it called? Lean In, right? Those of you who will read it as well had the same reference. And it was written by a woman who was called Sheryl Sandberg. And I think at the time she's like the chief marketing officer, but she was C-suite in Facebook, or now called Meta. And she wrote a book about basically leaning in and how women should continue to be, you have to be ambitious before you have your career. Also, before you become a mother, and then when you become a mother, you've got something to anchor back to. You're high. You've got your career to go back to, and so you're not kind of so much in the motherhood world. I hope I've summarized that well for people who have read the book. And so I did all that. I did all the reading. I was like, oh yeah, if I just lean in harder at work, I'll just get promoted to the next level and get promoted again. My salary goes up. It will all be fine. It will all be great. I'll be able to juggle both. I'm this bad bee at work, And therefore, I will continue to be that bad bee whilst also being a mother and managing the kids. I wish I had like one of those like soundtracks where you could hear like the audience laughing. Because when I listen, when I say that back like out loud, I'm like, that sounds hilarious because that's not how being a mum is. And yeah, like that's just not like the realities of it, is it? For those who, you know, for those listening that there who are working outside the home in paid employment and then doing the juggle, like you, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I'm going to be really honest and vulnerable and real as I always am in all my episodes. I don't feel like a bad bee at work. I very much feel like I'm failing. I very much feel like I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel, constantly going and trying to keep up, whether that's within the workspace or whether that's within the house with my family. So yes, there was an understanding that I was going to have a hit financially because, as I said, I'm starting at, you know, if all me and my peers all start at point zero, me taking time out of work, they've moved on to, you know, step 5. I'm still at step 1. So at step 0, I had an awareness of that, right? That financial impact. Didn't realize it was going to be 65K financial impact for the first child over 5 years, but I knew there was a financial impact. I didn't fully grasp how emotionally heavy it would be. And if I'm being really honest and real, I don't think that you could ever fully get it until you are a mum. Until you enter into that, I don't think you would fully get what it's like to switch between family work, running a household. You know, it kind of feels like running a household is like the umbrella and everything underneath that is like work, the kids, because like the constant is like just being able to like maintain that household. That's like the constant pillar, if you like. I wasn't able to fully like grasp that. And that to me, and it's something that we don't talk about. I think sometimes we talk about maternity penalty is very much rooted in the finances, which is important, right? But there's also that penalty in terms of that, like that emotional heaviness, that mental load that so many of us talk about or are aware of that terminology. But there's that load there that also feeds into that maternity penalty. If you just go back to the numbers again, right? So we've spoken about the current impact of the maternity penalty, women taking time out to have children and what that looks like. We've spoken about the emotional impact of that. And I want to go back again to the finances, but I want to go into the future finances and talk about pensions. Now, with the current data that we have, so current as is now situation, in 2024, a report by the Now organization said that under these current patterns, women are expected to have about £69,000 in their pension savings. Sounds good, yeah, decent amount, yeah, £29,000. Men, on the other hand, will have £205,000. Wowza. That's not like even just double. That's like double and then some. This would mean that women would have to work 19 years extra just to catch up. And so when I sat down and I read that and I saw that research, I thought, wow, disadvantaged. This is not good. This is not good. And so I felt that I just had to come on, do an episode on this. And again, as I said to you, share what me and my husband do and really break it down and really give you those like tips, those advice, because I don't want you. You're my friend. You're my community, right? We are the Squiggly Motherhood community. I'm building it. I'm growing it. I'm developing it. I do not want you in retirement age to have 69 grand when you could have more. I don't want that. Okay. And in loads of my previous episodes, I'm continually giving like tips, tricks, advice, food for thought to think about how you could potentially do things differently, whether that's within your marriage or whether that's within your how you parent, whatever it is. But it's just opening up and beginning those conversations. So if you are interested in what I'm saying right now, don't forget to subscribe to wherever you're listening to this, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. Subscribe, share for friends, because I want to share everything that I've learned in this parenting journey today. everything. I'm not a gatekeeper. So how have me and my husband done it? So first and foremost, we had a difficult conversation, right? So I said to him, I feel like I am impacted. I was really, really honest. And I was like, I feel like my salary is being impacted because obviously everyone's like in my work, everyone's going up. And I'm just stagnant. And I won't tell you how long I've not had a pay rise for, but I'm going to tell you it's been many, 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 many years. So I'm like, my pay is the same. Therefore my pension is impacted. I'm looking after and raising our kids. What are we going to do about this? And he was like, fair. What are we going to do about this? So I think the key point to take away from that is, how can you and your partner face this together? When we talk about the maternity penalty, this is not a woman's thing. This is not you women figure that out, how you're going to bump up your pension, how you're going to make sure you're financially stable. It's not that. It isn't that. If you're thinking that, try to slowly move away from that thinking. This is as a household, how are we going to address this? How are we going to make sure that you are good and set up for your pension? Now, I know when I've spoken about this to other people before, they've been like, oh, but it's fine because my husband will have, let's go with the numbers that were given, £205,000 in their pension, and I'll have 69. Like, it's okay. But wouldn't a better situation be my husband has £205,000 and I also have £205,000? Sounds like a great retirement to me. It sounds like a lot of cruises. That sounds like a lot of like fun times, right? Isn't it always better to have more money and to move us closer to having that equality there financially than for it to be so drastically different? And you never know what's going to happen in life. But it's always really important that us as women, as much as possible, have our own. And it's really, really important that our partners support us in that journey. So I was very honest with my husband and was like, I feel some kind of way about not, it being so unequal. And we came together and we navigated that through this season. What did that actually involve? It actually involved having really difficult conversations. It was not easy. It also involved like changing how we kind of reframe things. So again, not being like my husband, not taking offense to me being like, well, I want to have my own money. I want my pension to be bigger. It not kind of not viewing that in like a negative way, but very much viewing as a collective. How can we make this better for us? So having a clear, unified approach. So we started off with that, right? Honest conversations, moving towards having a unified approach. Once we were really clear on what our unified approach was, it was much easier then to us have a conversation around, well, I want to reduce my hours. So before children worked 5 days a week and now currently work 4 days a week. And that's not compressed hours, nothing like that. I'm a 4-day-a-week worker. So I've taken a 20% pay cut. Huge pay cut. I'm going to tell you now, that was a huge pay cut. And my salary has gone down, significantly. It's like a massive hit to the family. But again, because we were unified in our approach from the get-go, and I had said like, this feels like very much of a me thing. I want it to be us thing, and him agreeing, us having that unified approach. Then when we kind of agreed as a team that I'd work 4 days a week, it was no longer this is a you problem, and moved very much into the space of like, okay, so how are we going to make this work for us? When you are paid 20% less, that's 20% into your pension. That's 20% less savings that you have. That's 20% less investments that you have. That's 20% less everything. So for us, it was then thinking, okay, what's some of the things that we can do to make this work? So we have like a quite extensive like budget tracker of like how we pay for certain things. Oh, want to also mention that before I get into that, we are in a very privileged position. We are able to afford that. So I just want to be really clear on that as well. I'm very much aware of the privileged position that I am in to even be able to consider a 20% pay cut. So I want to make it really, really clear there. Okay. So anyways, we have this really big like budgeting spreadsheet. And in that, we were like, looked at the numbers, like, okay, cool, Nicole, you're going to be earning this much money now with a 20% pay cut. My husband's salary is this much. How do we need to rebalance this so this feels fair for everybody? So my husband ended up paying more towards our household bills, our childcare costs, our mortgage, he picks up more of like the ad hoc costs if we're going to eat out. That has now, he absorbs that. So I am still left with pool, bucket, whatever you want to call it, money, so I can still do my savings and my investments. Are they at the same level that they were at before? No, because that wouldn't be fair on my husband. But so we've rebalanced and recalibrated what our budget would look like moving forward. What this looks like in reality is that both parties are some may not like this disadvantage. So my husband has to pay more, so he has less disposable income. I have less disposable income anyway, and I'm not able to save and invest as much, but my disposable income has gone down significantly. But that's the sacrifice that we're willing to make, because again, we're thinking long term. Well, we're not thinking long term. Well, we are thinking long term of certain things, but we are making that sacrifice. So I'm able to be with the kids 1 day a week, and we as a family, as a couple, as a husband and wife, as parents, view that as important for right now, that the kids have me around. And so we make that sacrifice. And that has knock-on effects to our incomes. Now, what I will say as well, when it comes specifically talking about the pension, is we have had conversations. I'm going to keep it really honest and really real with you. We have had conversations where we've considered and spoken about my husband topping up my pension. We said we was going to do that. We're like, yes, we're definitely going to do that. And I'm going to be really honest, we have not done that. I do have longer term aspirations to be able to kind of look at over a year to see how much money I've lost, and to have some kind of mechanism where my husband and I are pumping it in, so I'm able to recuperate that lost income or pension money that I've had. So yes, that's something that we want to do. But again, I'm always going to keep it 100 and real. We're not doing it right now. So as I kind of move towards kind of wrapping up there, I just want to say a few things, and just to kind of like help to summarize essentially. The maternity penalty is big. As I mentioned, there's like the two financial ones. There's the one that we're currently living in, that 65K loss over 5 years for having one child. There's also the pension loss of, the pension not being as big as our male counterparts. And then there's the emotional penalty of, oh my goodness, there's just a lot going on, that mental load, it's intense, oh my days. That's really hard, right? That's really hard. Me to acknowledge that, me to call it out, what it is hard. How we get past that, or how me and my husband have done it, which I hope can be of benefit to you guys listening and give you a bit of, again, as I said, food for thought, is being really honest with how I feel. Being the loser end of the spectrum. That doesn't sound very positive, does it? But feeling like I'm losing out, I'm missing out. And from the data, I am like, monetarily, there's a massive hit. Just being really honest with that and how I feel. Coming together and working as a team. Viewing this as an our problem, not a my problem. Viewing this as what's going to benefit our household, as opposed to what's going to benefit you. So moving away from the individualistic mindset, moving away from that, moving closer to team. That was the first thing that worked for us. Then thinking about what's a practical step? What does that look like? So then in terms of finances, it's do we want to do some kind of top up of my pension to get me up to where I would have been? Do we want to re-collaborate our budget? And that's what we did. And there's losses on both sides. One thing I haven't actually spoken about actually is that mental load piece. And again, this will differ. Like, currently at the moment, as I'm recording this, my husband does more than me mental load wise, because I'm so busy at work and I'm working late nights and I'm recording those episodes of the guests for Squiggly Motherhood. Don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend. But give me like a month ago now, maybe 6 weeks ago now, I was doing a lot. So it ebbs and flows, it shifts, right? But as we're going through those shifts, I think what's been really important for me to remember is if I happen to be doing more in a season, not to be looking at my husband's side eye, being like, why are you not doing more? Why are you not doing da-da-da-da-da-da? Because actually, this is a season that we're in where I'm contributing lots, but it can easily just like woof in a moment, like flip rapidly into a season where I'm doing, where my husband's doing more than me, the season that we're currently in. So I think in terms of that mental load bit, again, how do we approach this as a team? What feels right for us right now in our household? And that will look completely different to different people. There was a period in our time, in our marriage, where I did all the cooking, but my husband did all the all the vacuum cleaning and all the laundry. I kid you not, I never turned on the vacuum cleaner because my husband did it. And then equally, my husband didn't cook any of the meats or food or whatever because I did it. And that worked for us in that season, in that moment. Now it's completely shifted and it's totally different. But I say that to say it's working out with that mental load. How can that load be less on you? And it may never be 50-50. Maybe it was 60-40, maybe it's 70-30, whatever it looks right in your household. That's the most key and important thing. Your household, your marriage, what works within your dynamic. But how can we get some kind of balance that works well for you, that feels right, and that will help alleviate some of that maternity penalty? So yeah, I hope that's like a nice, clear summary. I hope that's encouraging for you. And I really want to also emphasize that the maternity penalty is really hard. It's brutal. It's real. But it doesn't mean we have to surrender to it. With those 3 tips, working as a team, re-collaborating, re-budgeting, reassessing, and then working as a team or like coming together and viewing this as an our problem means that you're not surrendering to it and you've got some solutions that will work well for your family. It also doesn't mean that it's about giving up on ambition either. Like, still be ambitious, still wherever that means to you, but it could mean that it's a redefining of what ambition is. And so for me, it means right now in this season, maybe I'm not going to lean in so much to my career because I've got 2 small children to raise and because I've decided to work 4 days a week. But it's finding some like, what does ambition look like? Asking yourself that question whilst also trying to remain financially sane. So yeah, and really, I guess also thinking about what matters the most for you right now. Right now, what are the things or the thing that matters the most to you? And really having that remain true and consistent and real as we navigate this squiggly motherhood journey. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap up there. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to slide into my DMs. You can find me at Squiggly Motherhood on all social media platforms. Also, you can drop me an email at squiggly.motherhood@gmail.com. I read and respond to all DMs and all messages. And yes, again, if you enjoyed this episode and you really liked it, please, please, please don't forget to rate, subscribe, and most importantly, share with a friend. Right? We're building and we're growing this community. So it's so important that if you've enjoyed it, you're sharing it on your mum chat, you're sharing it with a friend, you're sharing it around so other people can listen to the content. Don't be a gatekeeper and share it with people that you think this would be really valuable for. Okay, I'm going to wrap up there and I will see you next week for a great guest episode. I don't want to tell you too much. But I'm really, really, really excited for the next episode that we have speaking to our guest. So yes, if you want to hear that, subscribe and then, join in next week for that amazing guest episode. And I'll speak to you all soon. Bye, guys. I went back to work after my maternity leave and I struggled. I struggled to go to work, to maintain a house, to cook, to clean, to look after 2 toddlers. It was just a lot. The mental load was insane. My to-do list was so long. And I was thinking, what can I do to make my life easier? What can I do to kind of outsource the stuff I have on my to-do list? And the first thing that came to mind was food. And so I turned to HelloFresh. I went online, I picked the recipes that I wanted, the ingredients was delivered straight to my door, and I was able to cook freshly cooked meals for my family in 30 to 40 minutes with the help of my daughter. And just like that, the mental load of having to cook, which I absolutely hated at that point, had completely gone in the bin. So for all my listeners of the podcast, I'm giving you a discount for HelloFresh. So you have one less thing to think about. Go to my show notes, click on the link, and give yourself that discount of HelloFresh today. Remove that extra thing of your to-do list and make your mental load a lot lighter. Check out my show notes now.